Hello, this is Dr. Tirrell. We're going to go through a brief walkthrough about replying to response prompts, so doing our responses, right? We've got those just about every week. Every week we don't have a project due, we have responses. So we're going to look at, how to do them, why we do them, sort of how they're structured, that kind of thing. So let me share my screen with you here. Okay, so this is the home page. As I mentioned before, the calendar is really where we, focus. That's the center to the course. So you can see we've got response 1 linked there, and it's due on the 13th. Essentially, I'll keep adding links as more things become due. Our first actual assignment, response 1, is due there on the 13th. And it's a clickable link. So if we click there, it's going to take us to our discussion board, and you can kind of see what we've got here. It's got 2 parts, right? Response 1, part 1, response 1, part 2. So it's not necessarily immediately clear. What am I supposed to do here? How do these work? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the assignments page here. This explains how to submit your responses. As it says, the job of responses is to demonstrate students' engagement with the assigned material, which, is really critical for this class because it's predicated on material, right? I mean, on the binge media and on the critical work that goes with it. So responses are due basically every Friday, except on weeks when projects are due. And an important thing that this points out, each response consists of 2 parts, right? So 1, 2, it's 2 parts for each response. And this gives us information about each part here. So 1, reply to a prompt about the week's assigned binge media. And if we take a look, sure enough, part 1 covers House of Cards, season 1, episodes 1 through 7. That's our assigned binge media for the week. It also points out that each week there will be a choice of prompts from which to select. So you'll have prompts guiding you, and you get to choose one, right? As it says here, reply to 1 of the 3 prompts in this form. It won't always be 3 necessarily, but you'll have choices. You're encouraged to submit your reply as an embedded video or audio recording, but written replies are also acceptable. We'll take a look at what that means here in a bit. But if we look at response 1, we can see we have 3 choices here posted by me. We'll take a look at those in detail here in a second. So as I just mentioned, students are encouraged to submit their replies as video or audio recordings. One of the reasons why we're doing that is because this is an online class, and because there's 150 of us about, give or take, it can feel very abstract, right? I mean, doing work can feel like you're writing it down and then just throwing it into the Grand Canyon. You don't know, is anyone looking at this? How does this connect with what's going on? Those sort of feelings tend to come with online classes, with large classes. We got both. So this is one thing we can do to underscore that we are people taking a class. There is a cohesive class unit. I mean, one of the main things we're doing is we are going week by week, right? This isn't completely self-paced, so we are having ongoing discussions. These responses are the first sort of priming for that discussion. We watch and read the material, we do responses, we rate our responses to get things to talk about during our video discussions, and then we have quizzes. And that's the loop, right? So this helps us discuss what we're all talking about. It gives us a sense of cohesion. And one of the things doing video or audio recordings helps with is that it puts, faces and voices to ideas. So we can actually see that, yes, indeed, this does have a teacher, right? Me, I'm an actual person, I think. I mean, I guess you can't really know that for sure. And there are other people in your class with you, right? So you're encouraged to do video and audio recordings. You don't have to. Also, the subject matter and the format encourage video and audio responses, right? They encourage live talking. I mean, that's why we do video chats in part. So let's go back to our screen here. The Office of E-Learning recommends Clipchamp for video recording and Vocaroo for audio recording. You can use whatever you want. You know, if you have your phone and you want to do a recording through YouTube, and then you just want to get a link from that and embed it, that's perfectly fine. However you want to do this is perfectly up to you. You can use any service you want as long as you can embed it or share it through the Blackboard site, right? So as long as you get a link you can embed, or even a file you can attach, because you are able to attach files, as we'll see. Now, if you can't do video or audio recording, you don't have a camera, or you just don't want to, I don't want to pressure you into this, you certainly can just compose your responses as written text. Nothing wrong with that at all. This is an English class. If you want to write. So that's always an option there. In terms of the length, replies should last about 1 to 2 minutes. You can go longer, 3 minutes or whatever, but realize that the situation, no one's going to sit through a long video. This is going to be a long video. Let's see how many people sit through it. What's encouraged here are brief, not facile, but brief replies, right? So a couple of minutes. Written replies should be, maybe a few paragraphs, 2 paragraphs, a few more paragraphs than that. Generally, a big solid paragraph is about a minute when read. So those are pretty close in terms of expectations. Replies are worth 2 points each. So, as long as you respond to the prompt and do a good faith reply, and you demonstrate that you absorbed the material, that you engaged it critically, then you're in good shape for 2 points. If it's something less than that, you might get 1 point or 0 points. So people do ask, what are my expectations for these? One thing to keep in mind is these are not reviews. I don't want to hear, well, I liked the first few episodes. That's great, but that's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for critical engagement, right? So this is not a review. It's not thumbs up, thumbs down. Those feelings are fine. They lead you to more critical thoughts, but that's what we're looking for. So this is not a review. Answer the prompt. That's what I want you to do. You get a choice, pick one, and then actually do what it asks you to do. That's a really good way to get full credit. Answer what the prompt is asking you to do. And also demonstrate that you have engaged the material critically. If your reply is, well, here's perhaps what happened and I liked the first 7 or whatever, your readers don't know, well, did you actually engage with this? I mean, what are we getting out of this? Put yourself in your reader's shoes, right? What are they getting out of it? Because your classmates are going to read your work. I'm going to read all of them. So, keep that in mind. Answer the prompt. This isn't a review. And demonstrate that you've actually engaged in the material critically. Not only that you watched it, but that you watched it and paid attention. That's a big thing for this course, not just binging, but considering how to do it critically. Okay, so that's the first part. The second part is one written question, so not recorded or in video or audio, but written question about the week's assigned critical material. Some weeks we do have more than one critical work assigned, so you'll be allowed to select which one. This is going to be in the prompt. It's just a heads up that your questions won't have to incorporate all of the material, the critical material. It'll be specific. These are worth 1 point. They should be about a sentence to a paragraph. So you're asking a question about the critical material. You read it first, and then you ask a question. Sometimes we will have guests in our video chats, including, as long as schedules work out, some of the people who produced the critical material. Sorry, I'm not looking at the camera. So occasionally those authors will be in our video chats, and we can talk to them about their work, how it applies, things you did and didn't understand, extensions of it, right? That's what we want to do is, again, demonstrate engagement. Anyone could ask, well, what's the thesis of your work? I mean, that's not a great question. It doesn't demonstrate that you've read it. Think about, how does this apply to what we're doing with the binge material, right? What's actually insightful? What kind of question would you actually ask the person? Because occasionally we'll have the chance to do that, depending on how things shake out. Okay, so those are expectations for the responses. There are 12 of them total. during the semester. The first part of it is going to be worth 2 points. The second part is worth 1 point. Since we have 12 of them, that means it's 36, right? 3 points total, and we do it 12 times. All right, so if we were to now click on our link on the calendar, you can see we've got part 1, part 2. Part 1 covers our binge material for the week. Part 2 covers our critical work, which is binge watching. On weeks where we have more than one, right? Like here in a few weeks, you'll get a choice of things to address. Let's start with the first part. We've got 3 prompts here. So this first one's about tangential socio-political issues. So this is a series that explicitly addresses large social and political issues. The antecedent there is House of Cards. Discuss some of the less overt but still relevant concerns that you noticed in the first 7 episodes. So that's a prompt we could reply to. And it looks like Ryan has already replied.
Hey guys, my name is Ryan.
Right, so we can give that a watch. Use the video recording. If I wanted to pursue this, I would just click reply, and I would add mine in the blank that comes up here. Right, we can embed. You have a formatting panel up here as well. If you use Blackboard, you know what's going on here. Let's say I'm not too into that prompt. Let's check the other 2. Depictions of women. Contrast the depictions of various women such as Claire, Zoe, and Janine in the series so far. That might be one. There are other women in the series, like who is the chief of staff? Linda, right? The president's chief of staff. She's certainly a relevant character, someone I might talk about. So maybe I want to do that one. Let's go back and check the third here. Minor character. So trace the import of one minor character, so not Frank, Claire, Zoe, or Peter. During the first 7 episodes, you might discuss how a particular character defies expectations, represents a larger cultural aspect, or influences narrative events. So I would pick whichever one of these I want to do, right? And then I would just simply hit reply right up here. And once I submit my reply, they just stack underneath. You guys know all this. What am I telling you this for? So if I wanted to record this, I could use my phone. I could use my laptop. It has a webcam, and I can just use on the Mac. It can just record. I can use what the Office of E-Learning recommends, and I do want to take a quick look at these just because they're what the school suggests we do. This first one is Clipchamp, and this is for recording video, and it does give you just a very brief set of instructions here. But like a lot of things online, it's very self-explanatory. The first time you go here, you will have to get some form of account here. So I'm just going to email myself here. Let's see if it lets me do this since I've already. Okay, and there it is. So I'm going to sign in here. Okay. And so I can record directly. That's what I'm going to do. I'll click that. I'll click Start Recording. It gives me the countdown. All right, so this is me recording stuff, and now I'm done. Okay, so it's processing, and now it's ready. So I could share this through a service like YouTube or Vimeo or Facebook or Google Drive. That might be a good idea because then I still have control over it. Alternately, I could download it here with the Save button, and it'll give me a video file. Okay. So that's really all there is to it. And either of these are an option. I could embed a YouTube link, for example, or I could download a saved file. And when I do my reply, it allows me to attach a file here, right? Attach file, browse my computer. Okay, so that is using Clipchamp. Vocaroo is even simpler. I've got some instructions here. Just need to run Flash. I'm going to click to record. Okay, you are listening to me talk. Okay, and then once I can play it, make sure it's okay. Okay, you are listening to me talk. And once that's ready to go, it'll actually give me a link here, so I can copy that. I can use embed code, or I can just copy the link straight up. In fact, I don't know if embed code works on replies. So copying the link straight up is probably the way to go, or I can download it as a file and attach it. So that's the gist of how this would work. So I've already done this, on my own computer. I would do browse, go to my desktop here. Here's my Clipchamp. I select that, upload it, and then I would submit, and I'd be good to go. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to mess stuff up here. Okay, so that would be the first part, right? And then for the second one, which covers Jenner's binge watching, reply to the prompt in this form with a written question. So I'll go here, and then I just click reply, and I will ask a insightful written question here about Jenner's article. Looks like a lot of folks have already done that, which is great. Okay, here we are. So that's the gist of how this works. All these instructions, are written on the course site. So check the assignments section first. It walks through how to do this. And then this video, of course, can help you. If you have any questions about this, you can always contact me via email. You can come into office hours or do video chat. But probably after this first one, it'll become routine. One thing to be aware of is I am going to be, looking at these and assigning grades, but because there's so many of them, you want to make sure you're staying on top of it, because I can't, right? It's really up to you because there's so many people. So, if you're not getting full credit or whatever, figure out why. I will be leaving comments. But, if you're only doing part one and you're not doing part two, make sure you're checking your grades so that you know that that's going on, because I'm not going to be able to check everyone's and say, oh, I noticed you're not doing this. You understand? I mean, I can't do that for everyone. So make sure you're checking your grades and staying on top of this. The big things to keep in mind, there are two parts, right? You got part one, and inside of part one, which is about binge media, there are choices. You can choose one of those prompts. Part two, which will be about the critical material, you ask a question. In some weeks, there will be choices because there'll be different critical works you can talk about. But as we saw, like the first week, there's only one thing we're reading, so it's just a question about that. So two parts, make sure you're doing them both. That's the big thing to keep in mind. And then when you're composing those responses, either video, audio, or written, remember this is not a review. You're actually responding to the prompt, doing what it says, and demonstrating that you've engaged the material critically, right? Think about your reader. Think about, what they would want to see. If it's just fluff, what are you actually adding here, right? We'll look at this later, but we are going to be rating each other's responses. It doesn't impact grades. Ratings don't impact grades. It's just a way for us to figure out what are the sort of most salient things that people are talking about in preparation for our video discussions, right? It's a way for sort of the salient topics to bubble up to the top through rating. That'll be a different video because this one's already gone on plenty long. If you do have any questions about responses, just let me know. Otherwise, those are the big things. And I will see you guys later.